and welcome back to the Girly Girl Bookworm. So today I have my reading update for all the books that I've read since my last 5 reads update. I went from reading like nothing to having these readathons and suddenly reading like everything. So I've actually got 3 books to share with you, and then that I read like end of January, beginning of February. Then I've got 4 contemporary-thon books for you. And I've got one that I've read for Thriller-a-thon as of right now. I also have read 2 e-arcs that I'm going to be making separate videos for, so I'm not going to include those in this video. But just so you know, I've read Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and Until the Day I Die by somebody Carpenter. Hold on. Shoot. Her name, for some reason, has not stuck with me. Sorry, guys. Of course, Goodreads wants to be slow. Emily Carpenter. It looks like this. So I've read this one, and I've read the Taylor Jenkins Reid, but I'm not going to talk about them in this video. So I'm going to talk about the books that I finished at the end of January, beginning of February 1st. I ended up reading In Dog We Trust by Beth Kendrick. This is the 5th book in the Black Dogs Bay series. I really enjoyed this book. This book is they follow different people on this same island, so you could literally pick up any book in this series at any point in time and it wouldn't affect you. It's 100% companion novels. You could kind of see every now and then, like, you'll see another character from another book, but if you really don't care about that, then I say go for it. This one follows a woman who is living with her mom. They're running this like laundry business, and one day she ends up like trying to like end up saving this dog, and this old guy is like, hey, like, you want to come like work for me and like take care of my dog? They're literally like pure breeds. Like, he puts them in shows, like he treats them like royalty. He basically wants them to be able to have some fun, so he kind of hires her to do that. When she went to go save this dog, she almost got hit by another car, and then she kind of starts having a love interest with him, and eventually, come to find out, the old man ends up passing away and leaves these dogs basically everything. His house, his money, everything. But he leaves it in the care of her, which obviously upsets a whole bunch of other people, and drama ensues. So I liked this book, but I have to say it wasn't my favorite in this series. I definitely still enjoyed it, though. I gave it 4 stars. There just wasn't something that made me, like, love it like I have with the other books, but this book had puppies in it, so that was definitely a plus. Then I finally got to An Unwanted Guest by Shari LaPena. I had been saving this for a snow day, and it just like wasn't happening. So finally one day I just sat down and went, I don't care, I'm reading this. So I finally sat down and I read it, and I had heard this compared to Clue. I had heard this compared to And Then There Were None. I can see where people compare it to that, but I did not love it as much as other people have loved it. I believe I gave this 4 stars as well. This follows these people who end up going to stay at this, like, cottage. Some people end up there on purpose. Some people end up there by accident because the storm just hit and they had to stay somewhere. And people start turning up dead. One by one, they start dying, and they can't get out to go ask for help. The phone lines are dead because there's this big winter storm that's coming through, so they can't get out to get help. And I found the twist to be really interesting. There was one final twist at the end that I kind of could do without, but for the most part, it was really fun. I just didn't connect to this as much as I have connected to, like, Clue and Then There Were None and things like that. So I still thought it was enjoyable. I just didn't love it. I think I hyped it too much in my own head, and that's my downfall. Never hype a book too much before you go into it. But I still thought it was rather fun. Then I was just in the mood to read something really quick, and I ended up reading Switched by Amanda Hocking. This is the 1st book in the Trill series. I really enjoyed her Water Song series, so I was like, I gotta try this one. And I own the first 3 in the trilogy, and then I know there's a spin-off series. But this was actually really it was a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. This ends up following a girl who kind of from a very young age knows that something is different about her. Her own mother kind of tries to murder her when she's like 6 years old. And so she's constantly been moving around with her brother and her aunt. And then one day she kind of finds out that she's actually part of the Trill, which is actually a bunch of trolls. And that she was actually a changeling, and that really she was substituted into this child's life, and now her job is to like kind of come back. And the whole point of the Trill is changelings is so that way you can bring back your family's like money, because you're supposed to have been given a trust, and that way that's how the Trill keep running. And she ends up being a really important Trill, and just her trying to deal with this like realization of I'm not who I thought I was, and all this drama that's going on in this new world that she's being introduced to. And it was actually really fun, so I definitely want to continue on reading with the series. It was actually a really quick read too, so definitely if you're looking for something fun and something quick, I would definitely recommend this so far. Then we hit the booktubeathon. I don't know why I just said that. Contemporary-thon, and I read 4 books during the Contemporary-thon. I started with No Exit by Taylor Adams. I ended up finally having a snow day. And no, this isn't the contemporary lovey-dovey type of contemporary, but it's still a thriller set in a contemporary setting, so I counted it as a contemporary. I'm sure it probably didn't, but like in my head I was like, I finally have a snow day. I need to read this. And this follows a girl who is trying to travel home. She just found out that her mother is basically dying, and she's trying to get home because she left home for college and kind of abandoned her family. So she's trying to come back, and it's just snowing like crazy. So she ends up at this truck stop, and she meets a couple people like inside of the truck stop. And then when she goes outside for a quick second, she notices that there is a girl in the back of a van inside of a cage. So her job is all of a sudden, I need to save this girl, I need to protect this girl, I need to get out of here. And obviously, the person who is trying to keep this girl in the cage does not like that she's trying to help this girl out. So things are insane because, again, with the snow, cops can't be called, there's no phone service, there's no nothing, and she's trying to get herself out and protect other people and try to get the girl out. And it was rather engaging. I gave it 4 stars. Again, another book that I think I hyped up in my head, and unfortunately I didn't have that really like love factor too much. There were lots of twists. There was a lot of turns that I didn't see coming. So it definitely was good. It's just not something that I absolutely like loved. So 4 stars. Then after that, I knew that I wanted to read something that was going to be kind of quick. I ended up having a delay after the snow day, so I was like, what can I start? And I ended up picking up the Winter Brides novella series by Denise Hunter, Deborah Rainey, and Betsy St. Amant, and I really enjoyed this novella series. I did not really like the Autumn Bride, so I was kind of nervous going into this one, but I loved this one. I gave this one 5 stars. Obviously, Denise Hunter was in here, so she kind of helped boost it up. Hers is actually a novella that goes along with her Summer Harbor series. Not Summer Harbor. Hold on. Chapel Springs series, because it goes with Barefoot Summer, because it follows one of the characters' sisters. So I loved this book, and I ended up giving this book 5 stars. And it's rare for me to ever give short stories 5 stars because I always feel like they leave me wanting more. And of course, I always wanted more of all of these, but I definitely had a really good time with this one and gave this 5 stars. Shoot, my foot is falling asleep, and it's like slowly going up my leg. All right. And then I ended up reading Back on Blossom Street by Debbie McComber. This is the 4th book in the On Blossom Street series. I haven't read book 1, 2, or 3, but I've read 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or something like that. I've read all of the rest of them. So I've been slowly reading these backwards, and I always forget to pick them up because I always feel like they're the always there books, so I don't need to necessarily read them, which makes no sense. So I finally decided I need to keep going, and I picked this up. And again, I really enjoyed this one. They are companion novels, so you kind of can read them out of order, but it is nice to read them probably in order because obviously, like, I know things about certain characters already that I haven't technically. So, like, in this book, like, there's this couple who's dealing with, like, planning a wedding and their drama, and then, like, you're wondering, like, are they even gonna get married? But, like, I've already read future books, so I already know the outcome. But it's still fun. I still like reading it. I would recommend you probably going in order compared to me reading it completely out of order. When I first started reading this book series, I read Hannah's List first, not realizing it was a series, and then, like, I read something in the future of it, and then I read something backwards, so I've totally, like, messed up the way you're supposed to read this. But it's definitely a really fun series. You really love all the characters and this small town setting and all their little shops and all their little jobs and all their little dramas. It's a really cute read. So definitely, if you're looking for just a small town vibe, definitely check out this series. And then after that, I picked up My First Husband by Laura Dave, and she's the same author of 800 Grapes, and I really enjoyed that one, so I wanted to try some other books by her. And this synopsis reminded me a lot of One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is about a girl who is living with her boyfriend. They've lived together for 5 years, and one day her boyfriend kind of just tells her, like, hey, I don't think this is going anywhere. My therapist told me that we should definitely not be together anymore, so I want to take a break. So with all that, she's, like, devastated, and then she ends up meeting this guy shortly after and suddenly, like, marries him after 3 months. And so she ends up, like, uprooting her life. She ends up moving from LA to Massachusetts, and all of a sudden her boyfriend comes back and is like, we should be together. And she's like, do I go with him? Do I stay with my husband? Because obviously there's pros and cons to both, and try to make that decision. And I thought this was really fun. I ended up giving this also 4 stars. I think it was like a 4-star, like, past few readings, which is awesome. So I thought this was good. There was nothing that was, like, made me love it. That's normally when I give a 4 stars, normally I really enjoyed it, just there was no love factor going on. So still a really good book though. And then the most recent book that I have read for Thriller-thon besides the Until the Day I Die book is All the Missing Girls by Megan Miranda. And this book, guys, I've been so nervous about picking this book up because I've seen so many mixed reviews for it of people saying it's confusing, but people saying they love it, and people saying, like, the timeline's really confusing. So I was like, oh god. But I've been every Megan Miranda book that comes out, I'm always like, oh, I should buy that. And I'm like, you own this one. You haven't read this one yet. You need to read this one first. So finally, Shelby goes, when she was first telling me about Thriller-thon, she told me to read, she goes, read this one. And I was like, okay. So something about it just, like, made me read it and pick it up. And I, like, flew through this book. This book does have a very weird timeline. It follows a girl who has since moved away from home, and she is coming back to take care of her father and try to get her father to sell his house because her brother is having a hard time getting her father to finally just, like, sell the house. So she's coming back to help out with that. She's kind of left town for the past 10 years because 10 years ago her best friend went missing and they don't know what happened to her. So she kind of just, like, blows off the town and disappears. And then when she comes back, suddenly there's a new girl who goes missing, and they're curious, is it related to the previous missing girl or what happened? And the cool thing about this is it starts going in order of time, like, oh, she gets in town and blah, 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 blah. But then it starts going, like, day 15, day 14, day 13, day 12, day 11. So it, like, goes backwards in time of her going missing, and then we finally figure out, like, what happened. And it was really fun. I gave it 4 stars. I definitely thought it was really interesting because you would often forget, like, wait, does my character know this yet? And then you're like, no, because I've already read it, which means it hasn't been revealed to her yet. So it was really interesting to, like, have that backwards timeline. So I actually thought the backwards timeline was a lot of fun, and I definitely would like to try other Megan Miranda books. So those are all the books that I have read. Hopefully I can get back on this, like, regular video making, so that way I don't have to update you on, like, 300 books by the time I see you again. So I'm sorry about that, but I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys really, really soon. Bye, everybody.